Hello everyone, what's up? I'm Andrew and I'm here to talk about all the books that I read in February. I read 6 books in February and I DNF'd one. Mom and Grandma, I know you watch my videos. DNF stands for did not finish. So there's one book that I did not finish, I decided to stop reading it, and 6 others that I completed. The first book I read I was inspired to read by Tom from TJ Reads the Stars, and that is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. This is a super cute graphic novel about Nick and Charlie. Originally, it was a webcomic, and she's coming out with physical copies now. This is the story of 2 boys in high school in the UK, and Charlie knows that he's gay. He came out last year. Nick is a rugby player and befriends Charlie, and things start to develop between them. This is so super cute, you guys. Oh my goodness. I really am in love with this story, and I think Alice Oseman did a great job writing it. The romance hits me right in the heart, and these characters feel so real, and they do things in this book that I've done or I would have done if I was out in high school. I love this so much, I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next, I attempted to read This Is Kind of an Epic Love Story by Kheryn Callender, but it was kind of an epic letdown. This is a story about Nate. He is a black bisexual teenager, and he meets a former friend at school, and things start to develop between them. There is deaf representation in this book, and it's really diverse, and I thought it was going to be really great, but 2 chapters in, Nate's personality characteristics were only that he likes movies and he's still in love with his ex-girlfriend, and those aren't actually personality traits. And then I got further in, and there was a lot of cheating. People were cheating on each other left and right, and that's not something that I wanted to read about, so I had to put this book down. I got this book as a Christmas present, and it is the one I was most excited to read, but it really fell short. So, I'm sorry, that one was a DNF. Next, I read Binti, the Sacred Fire by Nnedi Okorafor. Now, I've already read the Binti trilogy, and I love it, which is why I bought the complete trilogy. In this book, there is an extra short story, though, that has never been seen before, so I was excited to read that. This new short story takes place between the first and the second books at UMZA University, and it is called Binti, the Sacred Fire. The story was fun. It didn't really add much to the trilogy as a whole. I felt like the trilogy stands alone just fine without it. It was meaningful in some ways, and I appreciated it, but I could honestly take it or leave it. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but the entire trilogy as a whole I give 4.5 out of 5 stars, because I love it that much. If you have not read the Binti trilogy, go read it. You can skip Sacred Fire, but read the rest of the trilogy, please. It's amazing. Next, let's talk about the book that utterly destroyed me. That is Let's Talk About Love by Kann. I have already posted a full review sharing my thoughts on this book, but if you don't know, this is a book about Alice, who is a black, biromantic, asexual girl in college who gets dumped in the beginning of the story by her girlfriend for not wanting to have sex. The story goes from there, she meets a cute boy at work, things progress from there, and this book is so meaningful to me personally that I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. If you want to know all the reasons I love this book, go check out my review where I talk about Let's Talk About Love. Next, I read The Brilliant Death by Amy Rose Capetta. This story is about Teodora di Sangro. Her father runs one of the 5 families that control Vanalia, the fantasy world where this takes place. Teodora is trying to keep her powers as a strega, a magical person, secret. But when her father gets poisoned and the heads of the rest of the 5 families get killed, it's up to her to use her powers not to disguise herself as a boy, but to transform into a boy, to sneak into the capital to get revenge. She is joined by Cielo, who is a strega who can transform themselves. Cielo is gender fluid, comfortable as boy or girl, animal, or even wind or a cloud. The 2 of them, as you can imagine, start to develop feelings for each other, but that was not the main focus of the story. It was political intrigue, action, revenge, and some awesome magical battles. I really liked this. It took me a little while to get through, and I'm not entirely sure why. I think I may just not have been in the right headspace when I read this, but I am really excited for the sequel, and I'm looking forward to what Amy Rose Capetta does next. So I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. After that, I read the book that pretty much everyone on booktube has been talking about this past month, and that is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I have lots of thoughts on this book, you guys. This is a book written in verse about Xiomara. Xiomara is Dominican, she is Afro-Latina, and living in New York with her parents and her twin brother, she feels oppressed by her mother, who forces her to go to church and pray. And Xiomara finally finds a way to express herself through poems and through spoken word, but her mother does not agree with that. This book was written beautifully, the characters were amazing and wonderfully fleshed out, but I could not really handle this book, you guys. This book contains a lot of, and is about a lot of, familial abuse. Xiomara's mother is very abusive in practically every way except sexually. Reading this book made me alternately anxious and enraged. It filled me with a lot of emotions that I did not want to handle while I was reading this book, especially because I was off one of my anxiety meds while I was reading this book, and I was not prepared for it. This book really dealt a blow to me, and it's important, it's well written, it's a good book, but it put me through the ringer, and it's not an experience that I want to repeat again soon. That being said, I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. Lastly, to round out Black History Month, I read Vintage Hughes, which is a collection of poems and short stories by Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes was one of the most influential contributors to the Harlem Renaissance, and his poetry is something that I've loved for a long time. However, I can only name 2 or 3 of his poems off the top of my head, and I figured it would be a really good time to pick up some more of his works and see what they're about. It's awesome. Langston Hughes' poetry is even more amazing than I thought. I love him even more than I thought before. And let me just say, based on some of these poems, I think he might have been a gay communist, but that's up for debate. These poems are not very flowery. A lot of them are very straightforward, they say what they mean, but with beautiful, very frank language. And that's the kind of poetry I like. There's stuff in there to decode and to chow down on, but you're not going to get a headache trying to analyze these poems. Langston Hughes had a lot to say in his writing from the 20s through the 60s when he died about being black, the black experience in America at that time, and what he foresaw for the future of black people in America. I could feel the pain, the joy, the struggle, the life, all of that through his writing. I'm really glad I picked this up. I did get a little bit burnout on poetry after reading an entire book full of it, and I'm going to take a break from poetry for a little while, but I want to pick some more up again later. And I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. Well, that is it for everything that I read in February, you guys. Let me know if you've read any of these books in the comments, or what you read and what you thought of them. And I will see you guys in another video eventually. Bye!